Hello, first video back for a while, and it's a disembodied hands one because I'm working with a handmade pick. This one's probably more for the benefit of my fellow plectrum makers, but it might be of general interest to you if you're just into picks, showing you a little bit about the manufacturing process. That's a pick I'm currently working on. It's been fine sanded down to 2000 grit. It's a classic model, and it's ready for its final polish. Now normally when I'm polishing picks I use this stuff, Halford's rubbing compound. It's like a thick paste. It does the job, but as you can see, lots of warnings on it. It causes skin irritation, eye irritation, bad for the environment. You need to wear some sort of like protection, like latex gloves or whatever, to stop it getting onto your skin. It's petroleum solvent based. It's not particularly nice stuff to work with. Shame, because it is very effective. Problem is I don't enjoy working with anything other than like bare skin, because when you're making a pick, and you fellow pick makers, you'll understand this, when you're doing polishing you're running your hand around, you're getting a feel for the pick. So working with something like latex gloves or whatever, it's not particularly pleasant making experience. Also your hands can get a bit sweaty and all a little bit unpleasant. And I've often joked that this stuff, it's like a white paste. I wonder what toothpaste would work like as a polishing compound. And I was in the supermarket the other day and I thought, well, why don't I buy some toothpaste? So what I'm going to do in this video is, with this pick, this is currently work in progress, like I say, it's been sanded down to 2000 grit with some wet and dry paper front and back and on all the edges. What I'm going to do is do one side with my normal polishing compound and this side with the toothpaste, just to see how they compare. And because I'm going to be a little bit geeky about it, because it's always fun to be really geeky when you're getting into picks, I'm going to be using this. This is a USB microscope that I can hook up to my smartphone and take some incredibly close-up pictures of the surface of the pick. You can see all the tiny little imperfections and get a really close-up view of what it looks like when it's been polished with the two different polishing compounds. So here, just to give you an idea of what that looks like, here's some photographs using the microscope of the pick in its current form, which, like I say, is just sanded down to 2000 grit. So let's get started. I'm going to work on this side using the polishing compound that I normally use, the Halford's one, because that's got the way I'm going to remember it is that's got the white stripe on the left, so the Halford's left. So I've got a rag like I normally use. I'm just going to squeeze out some of the polishing compound. This is getting down a little bit, but hopefully I'll have enough to finish this video. And as you can see, it is quite a toothpastey sort of texture. So we'll just begin by getting that onto the pick. It'll be a little bit heavy-handed there. I'll put some on the other side. And we'll just basically go in with the cloth, and this is how I do all my picks. Just go in just with the cloth and hand polish it, so it's all down to just good old-fashioned elbow grease at this point. And this is really where the magic happens with the polishing process. When you see the unsanded material versus the material when it's been sanded down to 2000 grit, the 2000 grit looks quite polished. It does a lot to smooth out the finish. But when you get the polishing compound on, hopefully you can see that it gets a lot more glossy. It's almost like a glassy type of finish to it, and it doesn't require a whole lot of working to get it to that standard. So I'm going to go around the playing edges here and the face of the pick, just give it a good old rub, good old polish, and get that to what I would consider this is the sort of standard I would normally finish it to when I'm working using the polishing compound. Now, one of my reasons for wondering how toothpaste compares to the normal polishing compound, apart from it's nicer stuff to work with, is cost. That polishing compound is reasonably expensive compared to the price of toothpaste. I don't normally use Aquafresh. I normally use Sensodyne, but Sensodyne has got a completely different texture. The reason I picked up the Aquafresh was I was doing a big shop in Sainsbury's and I happened to notice it was on offer, so I could get that reasonable sized tube for 75 pence, which works out per squeeze a lot more cost effective than the Halfords polishing compound. Like I say, nothing personal against the Halfords polishing compound, but if I could find something that's a little bit nicer to work with, it gives me equally or comparable results, then it's definitely something I'm going to be interested in. Okay, so that's not taken a whole lot of work with the polishing compound. You can see now that's got a very nice, very shiny, or like I say, almost glass-like finish to it. Right, I'm going to go and wash my hands because this stuff is a little bit nasty. Then I'm going to get the toothpaste into play. Okay, we're back, and because that's polished on one side now, I'll put it down on something soft to stop getting scratched on the mat. And there you can see the difference. That's the polished side with the polishing compound, and that's the side just sanded. You see, it looks smooth at first glance, but when you compare it to the polished side, definitely a difference. So a fresh piece of cloth, and let's break out the toothpaste. Okay, here goes nothing. I think I might have been a little bit heavy-handed with that as well, but never mind. The worst that's going to happen is it smells all minty fresh. Let's say, hopefully this is going to work. Similar sort of texture, maybe feels a little bit more greasy perhaps, but let's just go in. Oh yeah, the smell of mint is quite strong there, wafting up at me. So give that a work. I'll just initially work this for a similar amount of time as I would with the polishing compound, and actually, yeah, this is actually looking quite favourable. It feels a little bit more slippery. I'm kind of struggling to hold the pick as firmly in my hand as I was just working with the polishing compound. It might help actually if I just hold that in the rag perhaps. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, so like I say, I'm really interested to see how this works because I don't particularly like the smell of the polishing compound, and the fact it's probably not good to have in contact with your skin. It's a little, for all it does the job, it's a little bit off-putting. Whereas with the toothpaste, if it does the job, and I figure if it's safe enough to put in your mouth, then it's safe enough to work with it with your hands. That sounds really rude. If you're sniggering, grow up. You know what I mean. Hopefully this is a effective means of polishing picks without any really nasty chemicals. So that the polishing compound I normally use is pretty effective without a lot of work. So I'm going to work this pick for what feels like a similar amount of time. Let's clean that up. So that is the side. There's a little bit of goop there. That's the side polished with the toothpaste. And you know what? That feels, and to the eye, looks pretty similar. There's marks there catching in the light, but I think that's just little bits of residue and finger marks. Yeah, that's actually pretty. That's actually pretty close. That feels pretty good. Okay, I'm going to rinse this off with some water, and then take a proper close look at it. Okay, so let's take a look at the microscope pictures. I mean, this is really over-engineering it because we think, look, we're looking at a truly microscopic level, but it's to see how these things compare. So the first one, this is the rubbing compound, the polishing compound that I normally use, and that looks pretty damn smooth. Any little imperfections that might be showing up in there, they're nothing that's going to affect the playing experience. Now the real acid test is, what does the toothpaste side look like? Pretty damn similar, I've got to be honest. I'm really pleasantly surprised with how that worked out. Similar amount of time spent polishing, and for similar results. So that tells me that it might be worth just abandoning my normal, like a specialist polishing compound, in favour of toothpaste. It's nicer to work with and gets similar results. So that's the final pick. Like to the eye, that looks pretty good. Hopefully you can see it on the camera, the way the light's catching it. It's pretty well polished. My working process though was always to give it a final polish using something like Brasso or Silvo or T-Cut, like a very, very fine, like more of a liquid polish, to give it that final glaze, if you like. So I'm going to do that now, but in terms of what that comparative test showed us, yeah, rubbing compound works. So does the toothpaste.